Imagine studying a language for 2 years. You put in the grueling hours, you ace every beginner test, and you feel, incredibly confident.
Oh, absolutely. You feel untouchable.
Right. And then you walk into a German office, you just need to ask a colleague to review a simple contract, and suddenly you're totally frozen.
Yeah. The confidence just evaporates.
It completely vanishes. You realize you can't even confidently ask them to hand you a pen without second-guessing every single syllable. Welcome to the B2 cliff.
It is a brutal awakening for so many adult learners. I mean, it really is.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. If you're studying for your career, or if you're just endlessly fascinated by how languages rewire our adult brains, you have probably slammed into this exact wall.
Oh, almost certainly.
Our mission today is to map this notoriously steep transition from German B1 to B2. We're looking at what it actually takes to prepare for high-stakes B2 workplace exams.
And we are going to conquer the specific grammar hurdles that trip up almost everyone. We're talking about the case system, personal pronouns, and the hidden mechanics of the language that go from being optional bonuses at the beginner levels to absolute survival requirements at B2.
To figure out how to bridge this gap, we've pulled together a fascinating stack of sources. We have expert grammar guides, professional B2 exam structures, a neurobiology paper on language acquisition.
That one is fascinating, by the way.
Oh, it really changes how you look at the whole learning process. And of course, my personal favorite, raw, unfiltered confessions from German learners on Reddit.
The real trenches.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, one learner named Glass Assistant 5127 wrote something that just perfectly captures the terror of this transition. They said the jump from B1 to B2 feels less like a step and more like a cliff.
That imagery of the cliff is vital, I think, because it highlights the fundamental shift in expectation.
How so?
Well, when you're learning A1 or A2, the entire goal is simply basic survival. You can, as that same Reddit user brilliantly put it, mumble past mistakes.
Right, like if you use the wrong article or entirely butcher a verb ending, a native speaker still knows you're asking for directions to the train station.
Exactly. They smile, they point, you survive to fight another day.
But standing at the top of that B2 cliff, especially in a professional setting, the luxury of mumbling just vanishes. The language demands absolute precision.
It really does. Let's look at the official requirements to understand why. If you review the structure for the Telk-Deutsch test for den Beruf B2,
The German test for the workplace.
right, the workplace exam, you see immediately that it's an entirely different ballgame from casual conversation. You aren't just chatting about your weekend plans.
No more talking about your hobbies.
Exactly. The exam requires what linguists call mediation elements.
Okay, wait. Mediation usually makes me think of like conflict resolution, like HR stepping in to stop two employees from arguing over the office thermostat.
It's somewhat related, but in this context, we're talking about informational mediation.
Okay, what does that actually look like?
You have to process highly complex information in one context and accurately relay it or negotiate it in another.
So high stakes communication.
Very high stakes.
Huh.
The Telk exam involves reading detailed workplace texts, listening to corporate voicemails, and then going into a paired speaking exam.
Oh, wow. So you're not just talking to an examiner.
No, you sit across from a colleague, and you have to debate solutions to a business problem. You have to negotiate an outcome, and you must commit to your grammar choices in real time under immense pressure.
So it's no longer just about geography, knowing where the train station is. If you use the wrong pronoun in a simulated contract negotiation, you didn't just agree to help your colleague.
All right.
You might have accidentally bound your company, helped their competitor. The stakes are completely different.
The stakes are everything. A misplaced word at B2 completely changes the material reality of the business transaction.
Okay, let me push back on this, though. Let's say a learner knows all of this. They're taking the advanced classes, they feel the pressure of the workplace, but they keep making the exact same structural mistakes every single week.
Which is incredibly common.
Yeah, this is a massive complaint in that Reddit thread. People felt totally trapped. So how do they actually fix these ingrained errors without just staring at a grammar workbook until their eyes cross?
This brings us to one of the most brilliant strategies from our sources.
Mm-hmm.
That Reddit user who had been stuck making the identical errors for 18 agonizing months.
18 months.
Yeah, a year and a half. They didn't solve their plateau by reading more textbooks. They started daily journaling.
Just writing down their day.
Just a few simple sentences every evening. Today I was exhausted. I drank coffee. I drafted a report.
I have to be honest, that sounds suspiciously simple. Writing I drank coffee doesn't sound like a secret weapon for passing a complex workplace mediation exam.
I know it sounds too basic. But the magic wasn't in the act of writing about coffee.
What was it then?
The crucial step was that they went back and forensically analyzed their own writing for patterns.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it. Speech is incredibly ephemeral. When you speak, the words vanish into the air, taking your mistakes right along with them.
Yeah, you rarely remember exactly how you phrased something 10 seconds later.
Exactly. But when you write, you are forced to commit. The physical evidence of your grammar choices is staring right back at you on the page.
You leave a paper trail of your own incompetence.
Or a paper trail of your own linguistic blind spots.
Fair enough, fair enough.
This user realized their mistakes weren't just random brain misfires. They were consistently failing to use the dative case after a very specific cluster of verbs.
Wait, really? Just a specific cluster?
Yeah, verbs like helfen, meaning to help, folgen, to follow, and gehören, to belong to.
That completely flips the narrative. They probably spent months thinking they were just fundamentally bad at speaking German.
Exactly.
But really, they just had a highly specific, fixable blind spot for 3 or 4 verbs.
Analyzing your personal weaknesses and identifying those hidden patterns is the ultimate unlock for B2. Once they saw the pattern on paper, the underlying rule finally clicked.
In a way that no generic textbook exercise ever could.
Exactly. It made it personal.
Well, if analyzing our personal patterns is the cure, we really need to talk about the actual disease causing these mistakes.
Let's do it.
Looking at the grammar guides we pulled, the ultimate monsters of the German language always come back to the case system and personal pronouns.
Yes, the absolute core of the struggle.
To understand why this system completely short-circuits English speakers, we have to talk about the fundamental mechanical difference between the two languages.
So let's think about English. English is a language that relies almost entirely on strict word order to convey meaning.
Right.
It's a system of geographical placement. The subject simply must come first. The manager fires the intern means something radically different from the intern fires the manager.
The person standing at the front of the sentence holds all the power.
Exactly. But German approaches this entirely differently. German uses grammatical cases to explicitly mark the role of the noun.
How should we picture that?
It's helpful to imagine handing every single word in the sentence a little color-coded ID badge that loudly announces its exact job.
I like that. An ID badge.
And because of these ID badges, German allows for incredibly flexible, sometimes dizzying word order.
Let me test this. If I want to say, the boss promotes the assistant, in English, the boss has to be first.
Right.
In German, can I mix up the sentence and retain the exact same power dynamic?
You absolutely can. Der Chef befördert den Assistenten means the exact same thing as den Assistenten befördert der Chef.
Wait, let me process that. Den Assistenten befördert der Chef. The assistant is standing at the very front of the sentence.
Right, where the subject usually lives in English.
Yeah. Geographically where the subject is, but the boss is still the one doing the promoting.
Yes, because the article den is the accusative ID badge. That tiny word den explicitly tells you that the assistant is the one receiving the action.
Oh, I see.
It doesn't matter if you place the assistant at the front, the middle, or the end of the sentence. That ID badge permanently marks them as the person being promoted.
I can see how that flexibility is beautiful, but also terrifying for a learner.
It's a double-edged sword.
But here is the thing that truly drives people crazy, and it's tied directly to those ID badges. Why does an inanimate object, like an office desk, need a gender?
The eternal question.
Right. And why does that arbitrary gender completely dictate the pronoun we use?
This is a profound stumbling block. The key is completely divorcing the concept of grammatical gender from natural biological gender.
So we're not saying the desk is actually male.
We are not implying that a desk possesses male characteristics. Der Schreibtisch is simply grammatically masculine.
Okay.
Therefore, when you replace the noun desk with a pronoun to avoid repeating yourself, the pronoun must match the grammar, not the physical wood and metal of the object.
So in English we say, the desk is new. It is big.
In German, that becomes, Der Schreibtisch ist dort groß. He is big.
That requires such a heavy cognitive load. You can't just lean on the English it as a universal placeholder.
No, you really can't.
If someone asks you where the missing file is, you have to mentally pull up the gender of the file before you can even begin to formulate the sentence to tell them where it is.
And that cognitive load brings us to what our sources highlight as the most confusing pronoun minefield in the entire language.
Oh boy, what is it?
the convergence of see, and ear.
The SIE trap. This feels entirely designed to cause workplace misunderstandings.
It certainly acts like a trap. The word see with a lowercase s can mean she, or it can mean they.
Okay, 2 meanings already.
Then you have see with a capital S, which is the formal professional you that you would use with a client or a boss.
So that's 3 meanings for the same sound.
And just to add another layer of complexity, the word ear can mean you all in a casual plural setting, or it can mean to her in the dative case.
Okay, if I receive an email from a colleague that starts in the middle of a thought, and one word can mean 4 completely different things, how do I decode who we are actually talking about?
It's tough.
Like, did she sign the contract? Did they sign the contract? Or are you asking if you signed it?
You have to become a detective and look at the verb endings. The context is always anchored in the verb.
Give me an example of the detective work.
If the verb ends in a T, like sie kommt, it is third person singular, she comes.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if it ends in N, like sie kommen, it is plural, they come. It feels like a puzzle, but the clues to unlock it are permanently baked into the verbs.
So we navigate that minefield, we decode the verb, and we figure out which pronoun to use.
Yes.
But the suffering doesn't end there, because then we have to know what case to put that pronoun into.
Right. The next hurdle.
Looking at the grammar breakdowns, the distinction between the accusative and dative cases is where a learner's confidence just completely evaporates.
Let's demystify it by focusing on the logic of the action. The accusative case is for the direct object.
Meaning?
It is the person or thing directly receiving the action of the verb. If I say, ich sehe dich, I see you, you are the direct object being seen.
That feels clean and logical.
The friction happens with the dative case, which is reserved for the indirect object.
What's the indirect object?
This is the person who is the recipient or the beneficiary of an action. So, ich helfe dir, I help you.
But this is exactly why English speakers hit the wall.
Why do you say that?
In English, I see you and I help you use the exact same word. You. We don't change the pronoun at all.
Yeah, English largely stripped away those distinctions centuries ago. We no longer differentiate between direct and indirect objects with our pronouns.
But German does.
German forces you to actively map the specific relationship between the verb and the object before you speak.
That is a lot to think about mid-sentence.
It is. But verbs are not the only triggers. This is where prepositions enter the chat and dictate the rules.
Right, the little directional words. With, for, through, by.
Exactly. Our sources show that certain prepositions act as absolute dictators. They exclusively demand a specific case, regardless of the context.
Like which ones?
Words like durch, meaning through, for, meaning for, and gegen, against. They always trigger the accusative.
So if I am preparing a presentation for you, it has to be for Dick.
Unconditionally. It will never be for dear.
Got it.
Conversely, prepositions like ekosius, meaning out of, be, meaning at, and mit, meaning with, always trigger the dative case.
So a meeting with you must be mit dir.
Exactly. Always mit dir.
Okay, I can accept those as hard, non-negotiable rules. I can make flashcards for those.
Yeah.
But the grammar sources introduce a concept that sounds truly terrifying for a B2 exam.
The two-way prepositions.
Yes. Words like off, meaning on, in, meaning in, or neben, meaning next to. The guides say these can be either accusative or dative. How does the speaker possibly choose in the middle of a fast-paced meeting?
You choose based on the underlying logic of movement versus state of being.
Break that down for me.
If there is active movement directed toward a destination, if the action answers the question, wohin, or where to, you must use the accusative case.
Okay, and if there isn't movement?
If there is no movement, and you are simply describing a static location, answering the question, whoa, or where at, you use the dative case.
I want to test an analogy for this. Let's imagine a movie director on a film set.
Oh, I love a good structural analogy. Let's hear it.
So if the director looks at the actor and yells, action, meaning there is active movement, someone is walking onto the set or placing a prop file onto the desk, that active movement triggers the accusative case.
Right. Often Schreibtisch.
Yes. But if the director yells, cut, hold your positions, meaning static location, nothing is moving, the file is just resting on the desk, that static state triggers the dative case.
Auf dem Schreibtisch.
Exactly. Does that work? That is a phenomenal way to visualize the mechanics. Action is accusative, cut and hold is dative.
It makes it feel less random, completely. If you physically move the quarterly report onto the table, you use the accusative. If you are sitting down, reading the quarterly report that is already lying on the table, it is dative.
Because the preposition off didn't change, but the relationship to the object did.
You've got it perfectly.
So the director analogy works perfectly when I am interacting with the world around me, placing files on desks. But what happens when the camera turns around and I'm the one acting upon myself?
Ah, right.
Does the whole director analogy break down when the subject and the object are the exact same person?
It doesn't break down, but it requires a new tool.
Yeah.
You enter the realm of reflexive pronouns.
Okay, in English, we handle this by slapping isself onto the end of a word. Myself, himself, themselves. It's a very straightforward patching system.
German, as you might expect, has a much more intricate approach.
Naturally.
For the first and second person, the reflexive pronouns are actually identical to the normal personal pronouns in the accusative and dative. So myself is just Mitch, and yourself is just dich.
Oh, wow. That's a rare moment of mercy from the German grammar system.
Enjoy it while it lasts, because the third person takes it away.
Of course it does.
For himself, herself, or themselves, German introduces a completely unique word, sich. And this word exists specifically to avoid a very dangerous type of office confusion.
What kind of confusion? Like HR confusion?
Let's use a workplace scenario. Say you are talking about the CEO getting ready for a major press conference.
Okay.
If you say bereitet sich vor, using that special reflexive pronoun, it means he prepares himself. He is looking in the mirror, adjusting his tie, reviewing his own notes.
Understood. He's doing it to himself.
But if you use the normal personal pronoun and say bereitet ihn vor, it means he prepares him.
Wait, him? Who is him?
Exactly, meaning the CEO is preparing another male employee, perhaps a junior executive, for the press conference.
Oh, that is a massive difference. If you mess up that one tiny pronoun in an email to the board, you completely change who is running the press conference.
Precisely. And to add nuance, German divides these reflexive verbs into two distinct categories.
More categories. Great.
You have unechte, or phony reflexive verbs. These are actions you can perform on yourself, or you can perform on someone else.
Give me an example of a phony one.
Washing is a classic example. You can wash your own hands, or you can wash the company car.
Makes sense. So if there are phony ones, what are the true ones?
Echte, or true reflexive verbs. These verbs simply cannot exist without the reflexive pronoun. They conceptually fall apart if applied to an external object.
I'm trying to imagine a verb that falls apart.
A great example from the Stack Exchange source is sich schämen, which translates to be ashamed.
Oh, I see. Right.
You cannot ashame a company car or a quarterly report. The verb only functions as an internal reflexive state of being.
So we have all these tiny little pronouns floating around, direct objects, indirect objects, reflexive six pronouns. Where do they actually live inside the sentence?
That's the puzzle.
Earlier you mentioned German word order is incredibly flexible because of the ID badges, but surely there is an underlying architecture, right?
There is a very strict architecture when it comes to pronouns. Normally, if you are using full heavy nouns, the standard neutral order is subject-verb, indirect object, direct object, SVID.
Let me try to build a workplace sentence with that architecture. She gives the client the contract. Sie gibt dem Kunden den Vertrag.
Perfect. Subject, verb, indirect client, direct contract.
Okay.
But German possesses a deep structural desire to protect its small words.
Protect them.
Yes, pronouns are tiny, vulnerable fragments of language. The language instinctively wants to tuck them safely inside the core of the sentence, as far away from the exposed edges as possible.
It wants to sandwich them.
I love that visualization. A promail sandwich.
Okay, so how does the sandwich work?
If you replace both of those full nouns with pronouns, if the client becomes im, meaning him, and the contract becomes im, meaning it, the architecture completely flips.
Flips to what?
It becomes subject-verb, direct object, indirect object, SVDI.
Wait, so the direct object jumps the line and moves to the front.
Yes, sie gibt dem Kunden den Vertrag magically transforms into sie gibt ihn ihm, she gives it to him.
Wow.
Those two tiny pronouns, ihn and ihm, are sandwiched right in the middle, safe and sound.
Sie gibt ihn ihm. I mean, just trying to say that out loud.
Yeah.
It sounds like you are just aggressively humming vowels at your colleague.
It really does.
No wonder learners hit a wall at B2. You were trying to recall the gender of the contract, the case of the client, and then rapidly flip the word order so you can sandwich the tiny vowel sounds.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It feels like trying to solve a Sudoku puzzle while running on a treadmill.
When you map it out theoretically like a math equation, it sounds impossible. Which raises perhaps the most important question of this entire deep dive.
How does anyone actually do it?
Exactly. How does the adult human brain actually process this transition to fluency? Because native German executives are not doing Sudoku equations in their heads before they hand over a contract.
Right. They just speak. So what does the science say? How do adult learners actually get off the cliff?
The neurobiology paper we reviewed, Sprachenlernen, offers a deeply clarifying insight here.
Okay, lay it on me.
It points out that if you learn a language after the age of 10, your brain does not process the new grammar rules in Broca's area, the primary language center, the way a toddler naturally absorbs their mother tongue.
So our adult brains are literally forced to use different hardware to process German.
Exactly. The brain delegates the task to a completely different hemisphere.
That's wild.
Learning as an adult feels clunky because you are bypassing the native processor and essentially running an emulator.
Like running old software on a new computer.
Yes. Because of this physiological reality, theory and rule memorization can only get you so far.
That makes total sense.
You can perfectly memorize the 3x3 grid of case endings. You can ace a written test on the difference between "een" and "im," but intellectual understanding does not automatically translate to real-time fluency.
It's like reading a book about how to ride a bicycle. Knowing the physics doesn't keep you from falling over when you actually pedal.
That is the perfect analogy.
So what is the bridge? If the textbook won't save us in the speaking exam, what will?
The workaround for this adult brain hardware is building rhythm and muscle memory through relentless repetition.
Muscle memory.
It is about creating exposure and habit. This is exactly why the daily journaling strategy worked so profoundly for our Reddit user.
Because they were doing it every day.
They weren't just memorizing rules in a vacuum. They were building a daily physical rhythm with the language.
I see.
They were training their brain to subconsciously recognize the sound and the feel of a correctly structured sentence rather than trying to calculate it on the fly.
They were building their own internal emulator.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If you are currently standing at the bottom of that steep German B2 cliff, looking up at a towering mountain of prepositions, reflexive verbs, and pronoun sandwiches, maybe ask yourself, are you punishing yourself by trying to force your adult brain to process the language like a perfect native-born toddler?
It's an unfair standard.
It really is. If adult brains genuinely use entirely different hardware to learn German, maybe we should stop trying to sound like flawless native speakers altogether. What if you viewed your imperfect B2 German not as a failure to master the rules, but as your own unique, fully valid dialect, a working communicative tool that gets the contract signed, rather than a broken version of native German? Stop stressing over the math equation and start paying attention to the music of your own words.